And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sherry Shish of Powered by Quilting, and this is month 5 of the Love Letter Block of the Month. That is this quilt right here that we're making, and this is what the pattern looks like. You can get the PDF pattern, paper pattern, and or quilt kit if you want to make this exact quilt from my website. Links are below. Month 5, if I was a more traditional quilter, I'd actually know what this block is called, but it's kind of like a stair-step block. I don't really know what it's called. I'm not even going to say it because otherwise it's not there. I don't know. In the paper pattern or in the digital pattern, you're looking at page 11. That is this. For month 5, you are going to be using fabric D, fabric F, fabric G, and some background. You're going to be making this same block 9 times for month 5. We are working on kind of towards the middle section. I'm like looking at the screen. This one right here, that row, that's what we're making, okay? And we're gonna be making 9 of these blocks. So this block starts from the center, and we're gonna be adding rectangles to make it bigger, okay? And so there's a couple key things that you wanna make sure that you're doing. Number 1, your 1/4 inch seam needs to be correct, because otherwise you won't actually have the correct size. So the nice thing about this block, if you can say that, is that as you're adding pieces, your next piece that you're adding on top, you'll know if you've been sewing too big or too small, okay? Because otherwise the piece that you're adding isn't gonna work. So we're gonna start with our center square. And we're gonna start next with fabric G, and we're going to do these little rectangles on either side, okay? Oops, did I put that the wrong way? Nope, this way. And we are going to make sure, this is one thing that I will tell you, is that you don't ever want to sew the same fabric that touches each other, okay? Every single time you will have different pieces of fabric touching each other. So you can't sew this here and here. You're gonna sew on opposite sides. So you're gonna take the same pieces and always sew them on opposite sides of each other. So we're gonna start with this, and we're going to sew them together. One of the things that I will highly recommend is that you will need to press your pieces before you sew on the next layer. I don't need to press right now because I'm sewing on the other side, but before I sew the next one on here, I will want to press my rectangles, okay? So I have this here. You have a couple different options on pressing your rectangles. There are a couple different tools. You can use a finger pressing tool. You can use a seam roller. I have this one from when I do bag making. It's pretty heavy duty. There are a couple other like finger pressing tools, like this one from Dritz. You have a left hand and right hand side where you essentially can open this up and press your seams down. I personally like ironing. Now, if I were making this entire month's worth of blocks, I would be chain piecing everything together. So I would do all of my pieces row by row by row. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing here, which is sewing one piece at a time and moving on. But because we're doing a demo, we're gonna show it this way. Okay, so that's what we have for now. Now the next block that we're gonna add is fabric D. And it's gonna be these rectangles here, and we're gonna sew them on either side, okay? And if you're noticing here, my fabric D rectangles fit exactly the center line piece that we did. If your stitch length, or not stitch length, if your seam allowances were too small, your centerpiece will be wider than what you're adding. If they were too big, your centerpiece will be smaller than what you're adding. So you'll wanna be a little bit careful. You can finagle and adjust a little bit, but there's only so much you can do before you throw your entire piece out of whack. So 1/4 inch seam allowances matter a lot in this one. Okay. So now we're gonna sew these together here with these beautiful rectangles like so. Okay. So instead of cutting thread right now, I would be sewing all of my pieces if I were making all of these blocks at the same time. Okay. So we have our new piece, like so. I'm going to now press my seams and my rectangles out. So now my block looks like this. Okay, I'm going to actually change it so it looks like the orientation of the pattern. All right, the next one that we're going to do is fabric F, which is this piece here. And we are going to add the other direction. So one thing that you should note is that you should never be adding like this, right? So you should always be perpendicular to the seams that you just made before. So they will be like that. Make sense? Now we're going to sew these on. And again, the pieces that you're adding should be the same size as that center piece. I wasn't using my knee lift earlier. I was like, wait a second, I don't need to plop that up and down the whole time. I can just use my knee lift. Okay. So now we have added this piece. I'm going to move this board back and forth. I'm going to press these open. And again, if I were actually making this whole row, I'd be making every single one of these blocks. I wouldn't make them individually. I would be chain piecing all of these together. Okay, so we have these. And then now we're going to add my background pieces here, like so. And again, they're going to be perpendicular to the lines that you just sewn, like that. And we're going to keep going. Same things like I had said before. Everything should be matching in terms of sizes, okay? All right, so we have this block like so, and now we're going to add our fabric G like we did in the center, but we're going to have these longer pieces here, like so. Okay, so again, right sides together, they should match the same size block that you had made in the center. I sound like a broken record, but literally this is how this block is constructed. It is the same size as a block. You're continually adding strips to it. And again, you want to make sure that you're sewing perpendicular to seams that you just sewn. Okay. We are almost done with this block. We have one more layer to do, which is in fabric D. All right, where we are going to sew on the edges, like so. Ta-da! Okay, right sides together. I'm going to plop these over. and then take it to the machine to sew it down. I realized without the design board, when you're just doing one block, it's a little easier, but I find the design board a little bit more handy when you're doing all 9 of these blocks together. So now we've sewn that last layer. I'm going to press this open. And voila, you have your month 5 block. You're going to be making 9 of these blocks. And really for the row construction, all we're doing is rotating these blocks 90 degrees all the way across. One of the other things I forgot to mention when you're cutting out these strips, if you have a stripology ruler, I did not put this in the pattern, but if you have a stripology ruler after you cut your width of fabric strips, it's pretty quick to use your stripology ruler to cut your little rectangles this way. Just make sure that you're aligning your width of fabric strips with the markings on the stripology ruler. If you don't have one, that is okay as well, and make sure you're using a ruler to measure out your pieces correctly. The success of this block really relies on your 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? It's kind of self-error checking to make sure you're sewing correctly and to make sure that you're cutting your pieces this correct size. If you cut your pieces kind of off and you're sewing kind of off, these blocks have a tendency to skew on you. So just to be aware of that. All right. So this is really quick for month 5. This would be a good time during the block of the month to go back and finish some of the other months that you may be behind on. I'm looking at you month 2 with all the half square triangles and the modified hourglass blocks that you have to make. We will be online. I'm double checking my calendar real quick. In September for month 6. You know, every month I do this and I never remember when the next month is. So I'm going to go look at the schedule real quick. But in September we will be doing month 6 of the pattern, and we will be pretty much done with all of the blocks after that. And then in October we'll be doing the full quilt top assembly. I have not sewn any of the blocks together in this case, and so I realized something. In month 4, I meant to change this to August 24th, and I didn't. My bad. Sorry about that. So if those of you that thought I was going to be live next weekend, or last weekend, sorry, it's a little late. But month 6 is going to be September 14th. I got to go change that, because that was wrong. So sorry. If you thought this was supposed to be last weekend, it's actually today. But September 14th is when we're going to be doing month 6, and then October 12th is when we're actually going to do the full quilt top assembly at that point. So have a great rest of the weekend and rest of the month. I will catch you on the flip side. I hope you like the quilt as it's going.